The seltzer flavor that I have today is trash. Ugh. Hello my honeys, it's Emmy. I'm holding this fork, but I'm not gonna for my intro. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Emmy. I'm a nutritionist and the creator of the Slim on Starve program, where my clients lose anywhere from the last few pounds to 70 pounds and counting, honeys. So if you want to lose weight on a whole foods plant-based diet without counting calories and being able to eat all the carbs, then click the link in the down bar or go to healthymmy.org. Also, make sure that you hit subscribe and you turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified every time the freshest news on plant-based weight loss is coming at you live, and you just want to keep updated on my life. So today is a mukbang, which is an eating show. So let me show you what I'm eating, which is honestly like this is the appetizer. This is the appetizer to my meal, if I'm gonna be honest. Downstairs in the oven, I have my Hawaiian sweet potatoes in the oven. A new box came today. I finished my run and I saw it sitting there on the porch. Oh, I literally took the last step of my run and I was like, yes! I'm so excited. So they're in the oven right now. So right now I'm having some, let me come show you. This is some oven roasted kabocha squash. All I did was cut up some kabocha squash and I put it on parchment paper. This is a half of a kabocha squash. I just cut up a half of it and put it on parchment paper at 450 for about 25 minutes. And then here I have steamed veg. These are some of my favorite veg. I have summer squash, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower. And I just steamed them all up. And I didn't put anything on them. If you want to put things on them, you absolutely can. Some of my favorite sauces are linked in the down bar that are salt, oil, and sugar free. If you want to add salt or pepper or spices, whatever, you go for it. I like it plain. The seltzer flavor that I have today is trash. Ugh. If you like Georgia peach, I'm happy for you, but Georgia peach is trash. It's disgusting. So here I go. And we're racing against the clock here. It's 7:09 p.m. and so I'm just nervous that the sun's gonna set. I love me some Brussels sprouts. Okay. So something that I want to say in regards to the size of this meal, remember that, because if I don't say this, I'll get message after message after message after note attached to a pigeon at my window about this. When you see somebody eating one meal and all you see is them eating that one meal, we are so led to believe that we have to eat 3 meals a day. And so if I say, oh, I'm eating this, people will say, is that enough? Is that going to fill you up until your next meal? Is that you need to eat more than that at one meal? We can eat as many times a day as we want. If you want to eat 3 times a day, go for it. If you want to eat 24 times a day, go for it. When you look at animals, when was the last time you saw an animal in nature check its watch and say, oh shoot, it's 3 p.m. so I can't have a meal right now. I need to wait until it's 6 p.m. We can eat whenever we want in the quantities that we want to. All right, questions, preguntas. So the first question that I see is, will your significant other ever film with you? I'm thinking, should I do like mukbangs that are lifestyle, like personal? But maybe my next one will be personal. Should I do it? Leave a comment. Okay. How do you refuse when people make you food that's not vegan, SOS free, like a birthday cake? This is something that I work on with my clients a lot. This is exactly why we have social school, which is one of the modules inside the Slim on Starch program. So there's social school, one of the weeks, where you get a restaurant call script, you get a restaurant cheat sheet, you get a restaurant guide, you get a they say, you say document. It's all about how to navigate social situations. But also in your mindset journal every week when I work with my clients, something that we talk about is what relationships and social situations do you need guidance on? Because what's the point of being healthy and feeling great and looking great and having all this health if you're doing it alone, like Emmy on Emmy Island, eating her Brussels sprouts alone, you know? We want to be able to share our health with others. So we're going to eat, and we're going to eat in social situations, and we're going to be with other people, and these situations are going to come up. Something that I want you to remember is that when you say no to whatever food it is that you truly, honest to God, don't want to eat, if you want to eat it. But if you honestly in your heart don't want to eat it, when you say no to that food, you say yes to yourself. Another thing is that when you put others' happiness before yourself, you are devaluing the relationship that you have with that person. Because the relationship that you have with that person should be open and it should be honest, and you are a part of that relationship. So your happiness is a part of that, making that relationship thrive as well. When you want to please them in the short term, that's all that you get from it. All you get is that short-term gratification of knowing that they're taken care of. But as time goes on, your relationship is going to start to fall apart because you're constantly putting their happiness before your own, which is not a key for a good, it's not a recipe for a good relationship. What is a recipe for a good relationship is putting your collective happiness at the forefront as opposed to one's individual happiness before another. So what do you actually say to them? You can say, oh my goodness, thank you so much for making this for me. I wish I could, but I can't. It's nothing personal. It's absolutely nothing personal, but it looks delicious and I'm so appreciative that you made it. So can I take it home for my husband, for my boyfriend, for my brother, for my friend, for my roommate, because it looks amazing. That's what you can say. That's what I would say. Tips for how to stop eating when you're full. I eat past full a lot. It's very difficult for me to answer this question because I don't know your background, but it's usually one of two things. You're either hungry, you're hungry for something, and we need to ask you, what is it that you're truly hungry for? Are you truly hungry for food? Are you experiencing true biological hunger? Because if you are underweight, or if you are severely restricting your calories, even if you're overweight, if you are on like a 1,200 calorie a day diet, eating tiny portions, weighing and measuring your food, yada, 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 that is starvation, and your body is going to respond to that. It is a survival mechanism for your body to send you to the most calorically dense source of food and say, eat till the cows come home, because you're starving me right now and I don't want to die. I'm presuming that there's a famine in the environment. This is what your primal brain says to you, and so you eat until those cows come home. As Kiki says, the cows whose milk I do not want. And so that is why you're overeating. Now, if that's not what's going on here and you're eating plenty of calories every day, you're eating a highly nutritious diet and you're still overeating, then it's time to ask yourself, what are you truly hungry for? Are you hungry for vegetables? Because if you could eat vegetables, then you're hungry. But if you're not hungry for vegetables, if you're not hungry for potatoes, if you're not hungry for a healthy, wholesome, real food from the produce section, then you're probably looking to fulfill some emotional need for comfort. And what you're truly hungry for is probably physical touch, connection, that dopamine rush. When we overeat, we get a dopamine rush. We just get this feel-good feeling. The eating of chocolate resembles the feeling of falling in love. And so if you're lacking that emotional fulfillment in your life, food is something that gives you dopamine, and you're going to turn to food instead. The reason why food releases dopamine is the chemical that makes us feel really good. It's the motivation chemical. We release a lot of dopamine when we do something that is going to help us survive, and it's key to our survival. So having sex, for example, feels so good and releases so much dopamine, because that's how we keep our species alive, is by procreating. And so when we eat food helps us survive. It keeps us alive. So we release dopamine when we eat food, which is why when we eat tons and tons of food, we release tons and tons of dopamine. So if you're not having enough sex, if you are not fulfilled in your life emotionally, you might be turning to food. And so what do? You have to look to other forms of self-care and happiness and pleasure that are outside of food. And foods that are higher in calories are gonna release more dopamine. Which is why you're so happy when you eat chocolate and ice cream, because it has so many calories in it. And I'm so sorry I'm eating with my mouth full. What are your thoughts about intermittent fasting? I think that intermittent fasting is great for some people and it's terrible for other people. But I think that people that intentionally do it, that have a background of dieting, restricting, binging, it's a recipe for disaster. I like when people intermittent fast without knowing they're intermittent fasting. I remember when I learned about what intermittent fasting was, I was like, I've been doing this all these years and I didn't even know that it was a thing. I didn't even know how to name to it. A lot of people that I work with come to me and they're convinced that they're like, oh, I have an intermittent fasting window of like 12 to 8 or 10 to 4, whatever. And they're like, it's natural for me. It's natural for me. But you really, and if you're the person watching this video and you're like, okay, that might be the case for them and they're not being truthful to you, but like it's truthful to me. I want you to really step back and be honest with yourself and say to yourself, okay, I may have gotten comfortable in this window because it allows me to restrict outside of the hours, or it allows me to binge during those hours. Really step back and be truthful to yourself and ask yourself, do I feel totally in line with my hunger and fullness? If I get hungry outside of my window, do I feel a little bit afraid to eat? Do I sometimes eat, but with a little bit of anxiety? If the answer to those questions is yes, then intermittent fasting is not what you should be doing right now. You should be getting in tune with your hunger and fullness cues. And that's what I do. That's my job. That's why we have Hunger and Fullness 101 as one of the modules inside of my program. And that's why we so closely hone in on your hunger and fullness and teach you how to relearn your hunger and your fullness so that you don't have to look at a clock for what time it is for when you should eat. When was the last time you saw an animal in nature check their watch and say, oh, I can't go in for the kill right now. It's 3 p.m. It's only snack time. Breakfast ideas besides oatmeal and potatoes. Did you know that in countries like China, they eat rice for breakfast every day? In the United States, we've become so accustomed to believe that our breakfast has to be something that's really sweet and sugary. And this is also why I work with a lot of clients who are like, I have fruit for breakfast because I just like to start my day with something light and sweet. And I say, would you eat vegetables? And they're like, whoa, vegetables in the morning? What are you, a psychopath? And I'm like, well, yes, but I think that you might be eating out of habit and not out of true biological hunger. If you are just eating because you want to eat something sweet and you want something light and refreshing, when in reality, you're not experiencing true biological hunger. So I want you to get to the point of hunger where you would eat anything. You would eat rice and beans. Rice and beans is a fabulous way to start your day. You know, I have people say to me like, Emily, what should I eat for breakfast if I don't like oatmeal? Then don't eat oatmeal, honey. Nobody's making you eat oatmeal. You can eat oatmeal for dinner. I have people ask me is eating oatmeal for dinner okay? Absolutely, honey. Eat anything at any time of day. We have to remove external cues from telling us when we should eat, what we should eat, and how much we should eat. We should eat an abundance of whole, real foods and tune into our body and let our body guide us. And not look at what time is it? How much should I have? I can only put it on this plate, or I can only fit it in this container. My window's open, my window's closed. It's too late to be eating. It's gonna get stored as fat. I need to have something sweet at the end of the day. Those are all rules that are written on a chalkboard that we're gonna erase those, and we're gonna get back in tune with ourselves and let our bodies call the shots, and don't let these arbitrary, literally made up rules determine your life. Be a rule breaker. How many calories do I eat? 5,000 an hour. I, honest to God, have absolutely no idea. Honest to God, I have absolutely no idea. And I'm so happy that I don't know, because I don't let numbers rule my life. I nourish my body. I treat my body like a Lamborghini, and I treat my body like an athlete, and I fuel up on foods, and I let my body tell me how much I should eat and what I should eat. And if I'm having a craving for it, like lately Brussels sprouts has been the thing. My body's just like Brussels sprouts, Brussels sprouts, Brussels sprouts. So I'm eating a ton of Brussels sprouts. I have no idea how many calories I eat. That is such a headache that you shouldn't have to deal with. If you know what to eat and how to build your plate, there are 3 things that we have to nail. What to eat, the actual food, how to build your plate, and how to read your hunger and your fullness cues. I'm gonna say that again. What to eat, write this down. You need to know what to eat, how to build your plate, and how to read your hunger and your fullness cues. If you can nail these 3 things, you don't have to count calories. If you can't nail those 3 things, then you're gonna be in trouble. And you're either gonna be counting calories for the rest of your life and, oh no, I just can't even think about it. Or you're gonna struggle with your weight. And that's why in my program, we do those 3 things. Those are the first steps that we take are, what should you eat? This is how you build your plate. Now let's hone in on your hunger and your fullness cues so that you don't have to count calories and you can just live a life of freedom. Peanut butter addiction is real. How do you deal with going overboard on nuts? Well, you have to realize that you are not the problem. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your biology is working perfectly. You are not the problem. The problem is that our brain, it hasn't really changed in the past 100,000 years. And we are still designed to live in an environment of food scarcity. Meaning that we are designed for, is there gonna be a famine? Is there gonna be a famine? Is there gonna be a famine? Our brain likes to play the what ifs. What if there's a famine? What if there's a famine? So that if there is a famine, we'll be A-okay. You and I both know there's not gonna be any famine anytime soon, but our little primal brain thinks that there is gonna be. And for that reason, it wants us to always be eating the highest calorie food possible. Remember we talked about earlier how dopamine is that feel-good chemical? The more calories something has, the more dopamine is released. This is because if we're eating tons and tons of calories, that means we're gonna pack on the fat and we're gonna stay alive. So when a food has a ton of calories in it and a ton of fat in it, our dopamine just goes through the roof, we feel amazing, and we are motivated to eat more. Peanut butter is about 2,400 to 3,200 calories per pound. The summer squash that I'm eating here is like 75 calories per pound. So that means that in a very simple sentence, let me do some math and let me see how many calories per pound peanut butter really is. $2,700 calories per pound versus squash, summer squash, not winter squash. This winter squash is a starch. But 2,700 divided by 75. So you are going to be releasing 36 times the amount of dopamine when you eat peanut butter versus when you eat vegetables. And no, it's not that simple and that straightforward, but bear with me. You are going to be releasing a ridiculous amount of dopamine when you eat that food. So of course you're gonna eat more of it than you would if you were eating zucchini or cauliflower. Here's the thing though. Then you might ask me, well, Emmy, how come some people can eat it and just move on? Because the people that eat it and just move on, they're not restricting it. When you have that subconscious, I can eat that, I can eat that, I can eat that, it's the big red button. So then you push the big red button and then the floodgates are open. So if you are in a place where you're at a healthy weight and you want to be able to incorporate that food in a healthy manner, then I would encourage you to approach it from a place of freedom and allowance. And that allowance is gonna remove that big red button. If you're trying to lose weight, I wouldn't recommend it. This is why we have the master's program. So we have my Slim on Starch program, and then there's the master's program where we learn how to reincorporate these foods without experiencing weight gain or binge eating. My camera cut out. What I was saying is this is exactly why we have the master's program, so that after Slim on Starch, you can learn how to reincorporate these foods without experiencing guilt or shame or self-sabotage or weight gain or anything along those lines, and to be able to incorporate that food and then move on. Is exercising mandatory in order to lose weight? Absolutely not. You must be new here. The best exercise is pushing your grocery cart around the produce section. Exercise has been proven time and time again to not be a sustainable, reliable method for weight loss. In fact, I often see it sabotaging people's weight loss, because what happens is they will say, oh, okay, well, I just burned 400 calories at the gym. They look on the little elliptical, it says 400, and they're like, yes, 400 calories. I know that a Skinny Cow ice cream is 200, so I'm only gonna have one, so that I'm still in a 200 calorie deficit. And if I do that for this many weeks, then I'll lose this many pounds. And then they step on the scale and they've gained weight. Because guess what? Now they're eating an ice cream every single night they weren't eating in the first place. So exercise can set you up for weight gain. I don't require my clients to do any exercise, and they all experience tremendous weight loss. I have a knife downstairs, and I'm afraid the sun's gonna set, so I'm gonna eat this squash with my hands. Don't at me. This squash is good. 10 out of 10 recommend. I was like 50 shades of done with Kabocha squash, and I'm like honestly just using it up because I have some and I don't want to buy it anymore. But this one's good. I've been on a vegan diet for 5 months now and I can't lose weight. I have tons of videos on this, and this is like where I thrive. I love that. These are my absolute favorite clients to work with, clients that have been vegan and they're not losing weight or they're even gaining weight. I used to be a math teacher. So what I like to problem solve. I like to look at everything you're eating and cherry pick out what we need to change and change it up a little bit and get a system in place. This is like where I thrive. So when people say, oh, I'm vegan, I'm not losing weight, I'm like, hi, how are you? My name is Emmy. Let's work. I have like a conch shell for people that are vegan and not losing weight. This video is so long. If you're still watching, okay, what should we do? Let's do something cute, guys. If you're still watching, I think I should do this for every video. If you're still watching, comment the word squash hands, because I'm eating squash in my hand. All right, last piece. That was so good. I'm very happy with that meal. All right, my honeys, I love you so much. Thank you for watching. And you know where to find me. And I will see you in my next video. Mwah. Woo!